They met in glances, not in words. In the flick of eyes across a church nave, in a whispered joke behind a market stall, in the shadowed corner of a springtime feast where candles dripped like slow honey and laughter masked hunger. In the medieval world, there was no dating, not as we know it. There was arrangement and risk and ritual. To love was to gamble, to suffer, to endure. Beneath the lacework of veils and duty, of bands and bloodlines, something ancient stirred, the unspoken desire to be seen not by title or family, but by name, by soul. And yet, almost no one had the freedom to love freely. A baron's daughter might be wed at 14 to a man thrice her age, his beard soaked in wine and power. She would see him first on their wedding day, a stranger in fur and sword, who measured her worth in land and dowry. In that first night's silence, she would grip the edge of the sheets and stare at the beam above, counting knots in the wood like rosary beads, learning quickly that submission passed for virtue. A peasant girl, by contrast, might fall for the miller's boy, his hands stained from grain and labor, his laughter carrying over the river. They would meet by the bridge after vespers, where the wild mint grew thick and the air buzzed with insects. He would braid a ribbon into her hair, stolen from the fair, and she would call him foolish, but smile. Still, even here, love was dangerous. If found, she might be beaten. If with child, she could be cast out, her belly wrapped in shame, her name erased from the village roll. He might be fined, flogged, or sent to serve in the manor's stables. There was no courtship without cost. The church forbade most touch before marriage. Kisses could be punished. Holding hands in secret might require penance. And yet they found ways, exchanging tokens, buttons, carved spoons, lockets of hair. Language became coded, folded into embroidery or sung beneath one's breath. A favor tied to a knight's lance at a tourney could mean everything or nothing at all. For those within the court, love wore a different face, one of poetry and illusion. The rules of courtly love were written in ink and blood, elevated into art, but rarely lived. A troubadour might sing of a lady as pure and distant as the moon, exalting her beauty in verses that never named her, only praised her virtue, her silence, her unattainability. These songs spread across kingdoms, but the lady herself remained behind her chamber door, hemmed in by politics and surveillance. Her life was not her own. A misplaced word or servant's tale could end everything. For queens, love was irrelevant. They were wed to solidify borders, to bear heirs, to die in childbirth if needed. A queen might take a lover if reckless or if lonely enough, but betrayal was a blade that cut both ways. The court was a nest of secrets. And in the monasteries, too, desire whispered through the walls. Young monks sometimes fell in love with the rhythm of another's prayer, with the curve of a throat glimpsed during chant, with the quiet that came when fingers brushed in the passing of a psalter. These longings were buried in silence, starved by ritual, confessed and confessed again until they turned into ache, into devotion, or into madness. A nun might dream of the milkmaid who once visited the convent with cream and berries, whose smile lingered long after her footsteps faded. She might write poems in the margins of her book of hours, careful to phrase them as odes to God. But her hands would tremble all the same. In the back alleys of towns, in taverns thick with smoke and sweat, affection was transactional. Prostitutes were a common license by cities, fined by bishops, envied and hated in equal measure. Some were children, some were wives. All were survivors. They saw men not as romantic ideals, but as coin purses and stories to forget. A few wielded power in their own way, clever, sharp-eyed women who knew when to laugh and when to disappear. They loved sometimes too, though rarely safely. For love without protection was a gamble few could afford, and still, somehow, affection bloomed. In the frost of winter, a boy might leave a carved heart on a windowsill. In summer, lovers met in meadows under threat of rain. In candlelit kitchens, old married couples sat in silence, hands brushing as they peeled onions, saying nothing, needing nothing. Some girls lit candles to St. Valentine and whispered the names of men they longed for. Some boys wore the colors of their beloved into battle. Most marriages were not chosen, but love, when it did arrive soft, slow, uninvited, could turn the stone of duty into something almost holy. There are letters that survive, crumpled notes in fading Latin, hidden in wall cracks and prayer books, written by those who dared feel something in a world that said they could not. A blacksmith's wife once wrote, "Though I wake with another, I dream only of you." And the reply, found folded beneath a pew, "Then meet me where the thorn tree leans, at moon's rise." In these scraps, in these echoes, we glimpse the truth that dating, as we call it, did not exist, but yearning did, risk did. Love was no less fierce for being forbiddance. If anything, it burned brighter because it had to be hidden. And so they waited, they watched. They carved initials into tree bark. They tied ribbons to chapel doors. They sent their love into the world like breath into winter air seen for a moment, then gone. But it warmed them all the same.